Hello and welcome to the world famous and award-winning Driving You Crazy podcast. This is the show where we talk about all things transportation, anything that gets you from here to there. I'm the traffic anchor and the transportation reporter for Denver 7 News, Jason Looper. If you would like to contact me, all my contact information is in the description of this show. I really enjoy going to auto shows. There is one here in my hometown of Denver. I've been to one in Detroit. It's really cool to go to these auto shows, not just because they have thousands of square feet of great smelling new carpet and all kinds of cars that have that new car smell, but because all the cars are from all kinds of different car companies. It's not just like one brand going to one dealership and you only get to see one or two of the types of cars, right? Well, one of the largest auto shows in the entire country is the Los Angeles Auto Show, and joining me now to talk about what is new, what is the latest trend, what's happening at the LA Auto Show, from the floor is Auto Trader's senior editor, Jeff Glucker. Jeff, thanks so much for being here on the world famous Driving You Crazy podcast.
Oh, my pleasure.
Hey, I know our time is short, so let's just roll right into it.
Sure.
In the past few years, we've seen a major push towards battery electric vehicles, but it seems now there's been a push back towards some of that into the hybrids. Are you seeing that at the auto show?
Yeah, so automakers are still forging ahead with a lot of EVs, and they're improving them constantly, but they're definitely still offering gas-powered cars, hybrids, plug-in hybrids, things that can kind of bridge the gap a little better than just going straight from gas to straight to EV.
Yeah, and when you're looking at that, do you see that in the show? Are you seeing a lot of the battery cars there that are being pushed, or are you seeing? I mean, how many of one or the other are you seeing there?
I mean, it's a pretty surprising split in terms. There's a lot of EVs here. I mean, I am in Southern California, so we have a lot of EVs regardless. But like Kia is showing off a 2026 Sportage that has a gas engine, a hybrid engine, a plug-in hybrid engine, just in that one model. So they're really, I don't want to say hedging their bets, but that's essentially what they're doing. And not just Kia, all automakers some are pulling back a little bit, others are forging ahead, and the ones that are forging ahead are doing so with better driving range and faster charging times.
Yeah. Another electric type of vehicle that is making some progress is hydrogen-powered vehicles. Are there any hydrogen-powered cars at the show?
Hydrogen is tough just because if you think the EV infrastructure is hard, the hydrogen one is crazy small right now. I think it's really smart technology in that it's much more scalable than true battery electrics, but the only ones really touching that right now, Toyota does a little bit, Kia has one they offer, but you don't really see a lot of that here.
Yeah, and some of the companies are starting to look at maybe getting the infrastructure out first. It's like the opposite of the electric battery car, where you have the battery car and then you're looking for the infrastructure. Hydrogen, I think they're looking to do it the other way.
Yeah, I think hydrogen is actually, it'd be really smart if we do it on the commercial side of things first, like long haul trucks and cargo ships and stuff like that, just because they don't need to add bigger batteries, they just add larger hydrogen tanks, and that's a lot easier and less expensive than doing these insanely heavy giant battery packs.
Right. And I've talked to people in the propane industry who want to do similar things with propane, especially when it comes to trucks and shipping and that sort of thing.
Sure, yeah.
Yeah. Teslas obviously are famous for their self-driving feature, but General Motors, Ford, they're making some advancements with that kind of technology as well. Are there any vehicles that are showing off their self-driving features there at the show?
Yeah, I think so. Right now, the number is because it's divided into levels. So level 2 is basically where most of these vehicles are at, and so many of them have these really smart cruise control systems, which is what level 2 really is. And Kia offers it in some of their vehicles, but like you said, Ford does a great job with Blue Cruise and then GM Super Cruise. I've driven vehicles with them; they work really, really well, and I think GM is up to like 800,000 miles of mapped roads that their system works on, and it's very. You can tow with it now too, which is crazy.
And there in Southern California and in parts of California, you are seeing some of the autonomous cars that are being tested. The Waymo cars, we've seen those around San Francisco. Are you seeing any of those type of cars being shown, or is this really more for the person that can go into the show, look at a car and go, I want to buy that one, not necessarily I want to get into that autonomous one and drive around a city?
That's exactly right. Southern California is a very driver, car-focused culture, and that's what we see here. These are the automakers showing cars to consumers that they want them to buy, not the ones they want them to order on an app and then go out to dinner in.
Yeah, right. There you go. My guest is Jeff Glucker. He's Auto Trader's senior editor, and we're talking from the floor of the Los Angeles Auto Show. Automakers like to use these shows to display the latest in automotive technology and safety advancements because I know in Europe and in Japan, they have laws that require passive speed control now to be installed in their vehicles. It's a safety measure, right? Have you seen any of that type of technology or maybe other non-traditional safety measures installed in some of these newer vehicles?
Thankfully, I haven't. I say thankfully because I like the freedom to press my throttle pedal down. So no, I know that you hear talk of it. I don't see any of it here.
Yeah, because there is legislation. I know in California, the Governor Newsom, he vetoed a bill to put some of this technology in vehicles. So it at least it looks like some of the automakers are pushing back in the United States, but not so in other parts of the world.
Yeah, and people like to occasionally make fun of California for us being tough with certain car-based law stuff, but see, that's a great example of it's not always the case, and we still enjoy our cars in a very fun way.
Sure. Are there other safety technology features? Subaru is famous for it. Volvo is famous for it. Some of their crash technology. Have you seen some of that promoted there at the auto show?
Oh yeah, Subaru has a huge booth right behind me, and they love talking about their eyesight technology, which is the two cameras at the top of the windshield. They love talking about that stuff. So you see every automaker that has their own unique good safety technology, they're always talking about it here in their booths.
There's always some unique brands. Obviously, there's the Toyotas and Nissans and Fords, right? But there's also unique brands out there. Ineos, I believe it's how you call it, right? They're from London. VinFast out of Vietnam. Nailu, who is a multi-million-dollar. Don't they have a multi-million-dollar like spaceship-looking car out there?
Basically, yeah, it's a crazy thing. But you mentioned Ineos. Ineos is right around the corner, and I've driven the Ineos Grenadier, which is their SUV. I love off-roading. I love that thing. It's when you think of an off-road vehicle, that's legit. Solid axles, recirculating ball steering, triple locking differentials. I'm a huge fan of what Ineos is doing.
During the Denver Auto Show, they always have this test track for Jeep, right? Where you go up this hill and down the hill and over some bumps and that sort of thing. Do they have this sort of thing there for not only Ineos, but maybe for Jeep or for the other four-wheel drive manufacturers?
They don't have that here because I think it's a little too crowded outside of this convention center. But inside, I can see in the distance, Ford has something for their Broncos, which is a tamer version of that pretty wild Jeep track. I know which track you're talking about.
Yeah, right. But those kind of cars, those fancier cars, the ones that people don't know about that much, or the concept cars, or the ones that really draw a lot of attention. Everybody has seen, a 4Runner, right? But they haven't, they haven't always seen those real cool concept cars. Have you seen a bunch of those there?
Yeah, there's a cool Kia one right over here in this booth. It basically looks like if you took a Mitsubishi Delica, which is, an older van, you made it into a futuristic looking thing and they added a camper roof to it. It looks fantastic. It's a really cool concept car that they originally showed off at the SEMA show.
I'm speaking with Jeff Glucker. He's Auto Trader's senior editor. We're talking from the floor of the Los Angeles Auto Show. Inside these cars now, you've seen it with a Tesla, with a big, huge, giant iPad, basically. They look like they're a spaceship. They look like they're a computer, right? A lot different than my first car, my 1975 Plymouth Fury, where it had a lot of buttons and knobs. Are there any of the manufacturers going back to buttons and knobs, or are we stuck with being the cars of the future, the Jetson style?
There's been a lot of studies showing that consumers don't like these haptic feedback and just touchscreen. They want volume knobs. They want touchable climate controls. Some automakers are still fighting it, but you've seen some come back to actual physical buttons and knobs. And I got to tell you, I prefer that over staring down at a screen. I want to be able to just not look and change the volume on my radio or change the temperature on my AC system.
Yeah, exactly. Do you feel that there's an overall trend this year at the auto show? Is there a style or a feature that is really being pushed by the automakers this year?
I think the feature or trend this year is to show diverse lineups because the buying public is so split on what they want. So automakers have to be agile enough to offer multiple powertrains or different versions of vehicles. Like there are a lot of people who want an electric vehicle, but there are people who aren't ready, which is why you get the plug-in hybrids or just traditional gas engines. So I think the trend is making sure lineups are diverse to keep customers coming into those dealerships.
And that's one of the benefits of going to an auto show, whether it's here in Denver or there in Los Angeles or anywhere across the country, is that you are able not just to go to a Ford dealership or a Chevy dealership, but you get to see them all in one place.
Yeah, it is the great appeal of the auto show is that you don't, like you just said, you don't have to go talk to the Ford guy. You can go see a bunch of the different Fords, but then walk right over to Honda and check out the new Passport Trail Sport, or walk over here to Kia and look at some of these really cool vehicles on display.
Yeah, and speaking of Ford, the F-150, we all know it's the most popular truck for, the history of trucks.
Yeah.
Have there been any changes that you've seen with the F-150, or are they pretty much trying to keep it as traditional as possible?
They make them fancier and fancier every year, and then the price goes up every year, but they still offer those great entry-level F-150s. But with pickup trucks, it's wild how nice, not just Fords, but the Chevy Silverado, and especially the GMC side of things. The Ram is a wonderfully driving vehicle in terms of pickup truck ride comfort. They're just so nice now in terms of like stereo systems and interior materials and comfort and just general comfort out on the road.
So there's really now more the fancy truck rather than the work truck, where you're not going to use it maybe as a work vehicle. Could you get it? I'm sure they probably don't show there at the auto show the stripped down version that you're going to take to the work yard, right?
Yeah, they usually don't bring those ones out, but thankfully they are still in the fleets. Even on the electrified versions of those trucks, they're offering work truck versions of those too, which is great.
Yeah, and then there's the combo trucks, where you have the trucks that have the aftermarket campers or tires or all that stuff. And I know at the Denver Auto Show, the aftermarket area is quite popular because people like to trick out and make their trucks or their other vehicles unique to them.
What's great here this year is we actually have a whole overlanding section with some really wild builds, real campers, and it's legit in the fact that the people who own those vehicles are camping here tonight, overnight in the convention.
Well, that's nice. They have bathrooms. It's warm. I'm sure it's better.
Exactly.
No bears wandering around and. All right.
I mean, some of these builds are so nice that the builds have bathrooms too, so they'll be fine.
What is maybe one of the coolest things that you've seen, or coolest vehicle that you've seen so far there at the auto show?
Well, you mentioned Ineos. They're right around the corner, but some of those are in the Overland section too. So there's an Ineos, it's their Quartermaster, it's their pickup truck version with a full Scout camper bed in the back, and I just need to take that on an adventure. There's a Unimog over there. I like off-roading and camping, so that Overland area speaks to me greatly.
I'm visiting with Auto Trader senior editor Jeff Glucker. He's on the floor of the Los Angeles Auto Show. We've talked a lot about all the German manufacturers and the ones out of Japan and South Korea, but there is that one car company, VinFast, out of Vietnam that is trying to make some inroads here in the United States, right?
Yeah, so I think the vehicles are sharp looking. I think they're working out a lot of teething processes right now and just figuring out how to make the cars better for the public, the buying public here in the States interested in them. But I'm never going to count them out, because years ago we said the same thing about somebody like Kia, like just 10, 15 years ago. Now, Kia makes some of the nicest cars on the road. My own father, I told him to buy a Kia K5, and he loves it. He thinks it's a hot rod. I have to bring him back down to earth sometimes. But I think if VinFast, if the money can keep flowing in for them to stick around for a while, I'm never going to say that they're not going to happen. It happened with Kia, and like I said, amazing cars. VinFast could be the next Kia.
And you mentioned with your father-in-law's car how he wants to drive fast. I think that's the overall style now on some of these vehicles, because they are so quiet, they're safe, they almost feel like a race car, even if they're a big vehicle, that you can go faster and almost more safely than you could when you were driving cars back in the 70s and 80s.
Oh, absolutely. The car behind me, that is a Kia EV9. They make a GT version now. It has 501 horsepower. So that's a 3-row electric SUV with just what used to be high-end sports car horsepower.
Have you seen some of those big muscle cars at the auto show? Because some of the car makers, we've heard a lot about GM with their electric Corvette, but have you seen any of the big muscle cars there at the auto show, or are some of the car makers pushing back on that?
Yeah, so there's two halls here. In the other hall, I've seen the Corvette E-Ray is here, and then Dodge has their Charger Daytona as well. So they're still making them. I know Dodge is doing a little bit of a shift where they're going to get the gas version out of the Charger Daytona quickly as well, because a lot of customers are demanding that. But I got to tell you, I think that electric one looks pretty cool.
Yeah. Well, and obviously they drive a little bit different. I've been driving a Chevy Volt for the last 12 years, and so the EVs do drive a little bit different, especially in snow or bad weather like we have out here in Denver. The torque is a lot different, so I can't imagine what it would be to drive one of those cars with instant torque and so much horsepower, if you will, in slippery conditions.
Well, I'm a big proponent of if you have the right tires on any vehicle, it can go anywhere. I've driven in Colorado Springs on an ice field in a V12 Aston Martin, but it had winter tires and it handled it just fine.
Nice.
I didn't own that car, by the way. That's not my world.
What car do you own?
I have a 1991 Mitsubishi Montero.
Perfect. Nice. How did you like driving out here in Colorado Springs?
Oh, I've driven all over Colorado. It's one of the prettiest places. I was out there in August driving Toyotas and off-roading. We were at 12,000 feet. You can see Vail in the distance. Colorado is if not the prettiest state, it's one of the prettiest states in the country.
Obviously, you work for Auto Trader right now, and you are a car guy. I wanted to ask you, there's a lot of talk in this car market right now about possible crash, at least a correction coming. Is that something that you are seeing?
So I always like to look at that new car transaction price, and it's still extremely high, but it's finally slightly down year over year. It's still it's like $48,000 is the average new car transaction price. So I think there's been some slight adjustments. It's really going to depend on what happens going forward with a whole lot of things. So I can't really speculate on that. I hope prices come down because I think cars should be less expensive, and my wife is shopping for a new car, and we'd like to pay less. So we'll see what happens.
Oh, sure. And you're probably trying to shop on the internet. Do you ever see a time where there's going to be less, and you're in a place where there are dealers all over the place, right? Is there a time where you're going to see it's going to go more on the internet and less on the dealers' backs to sell you a car?
So the dealers, their organization is very powerful. They'll always push back on that, but I think there's a lot of positives that could happen from buying some vehicles online. It's nice to just pick and choose exactly what you want and then get it delivered to your house. There is still something to be said about the dealership experience, though, knowing where and when to get your car serviced. And if you find a good dealer, there are a lot of great dealers out there. Our Mazda that we bought from out here in California, we've had nothing but great relationship with them.
And I know we have just about a minute left or so, and I do appreciate your time. How does that new carpet smell there at the auto show?
I'm surrounded by it. Poke your head into anything, and you're getting it from every angle.
Yes.
And I mean, you got to love that.
Yeah, you could bottle it up, right? Because not only do you have, at these auto shows, they roll in all that new carpet, right? And then they drive the cars with the new car smell. And so you have double excellent smell at a show like that.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's overload. I love it.
And overall, how does it feel just to be out there to see these cars and just be surrounded by it? You have to have some energy there, right?
Yeah, I mean, I've been up since about 4:30, but I still have good energy, and I love. I can see a Bronco off-roading in the distance. So how does that not make you smile?
By the way, I get up at 2:30 every day, so I got you beat.
Okay, all right, you got me beat.
All right, I do appreciate your time. I know that you got to go.
Oh, no, thank you.
Yeah, it was great. Great conversation.
Yeah, same. Pleasure. Thanks for having me.
Again, Jeff Glucker from the LA Auto Show, Auto Trader's senior editor. Really cool to be able to talk to somebody that is standing. So I know you couldn't see it because this is a audio deal here. But Jeff was standing in this area with some cars behind him. And because the day I was talking to him, it was like a press day. So there were a lot of press around him and behind him taking pictures of different cars. And there was a press conference going on not too far from him. That's why he was actually standing with a stick mic instead of being in this other spot that he was supposed to be in with a regular, like a little set, right? So they put him up in this other area. But Jeff talks about cars all the time, and you can find Jeff at autotrader.com. Unfortunately, auto shows like the Los Angeles show, they don't put a lot of information or pictures or videos out on their website because what they want you to do is buy a ticket to go see the show for yourself and get you in there and hopefully maybe convince you to buy a car and not see it on the internet. So this was, though, I thought a good way to get a little taste of what was happening at the show and what might be coming to an auto show near you, wherever you are in the country. The auto show here in Denver is usually in the spring. I think it's in April this coming year, and it's always fun. And yeah, there's lots of carpet and also new carpet smell. And since the auto show in Los Angeles is one of the bigger ones, there's always more, news that comes out of it. There's more hype that comes out of it. They have some interesting and different cars, concept cars. Kind of what Jeff was a little bit, I wish he was a little bit more descriptive in some of this, but he's trained to give short sound bites and just do this because, this was a TV style junket interview, basically, where he's going from place to place to place to place. And so they were kind enough to give me 15 minutes with Jeff. So they let me dial in a couple of minutes early, and so we got a little bit extra time with him, which I thought was really great. And since, it is the holiday travel season, I wanted to share one of the more unusual press releases I received over the years. This is how it reads. What causes the most airport arguments in Colorado? Now, I'm sure this could be a headline, and I'm sure they have this headline for, since they're sending it to me, they're going to use Colorado. If they're sending it to somebody in California, they would use California, or Boston, they'd use Massachusetts, and the like, okay? So they say, the experts at airportparkingreservations.com surveyed Colorado flyers to reveal the most common airport arguments ahead of one of the busiest travel periods of the year. As family, friends, and couples across the nation prepare to meet, the team at airportparkingreservations.com wanted to uncover the common stresses that lead to airport disagreements. The survey revealed the top arguments Colorado travelers face when negotiating crowded airports this holiday season. I'm sure the survey preparers at airportparkingreservations.com, if that's really who it does, because usually what happens, somebody puts this stuff together and then they sell it to this website, and then the website takes it as ownership. A lot of lawyers do this, like injury lawyer places. They'll do there will be some study about how many crashes involve pedestrians in some town or across the country, and they'll take that data and they'll say, we looked at, we at XYZ injury lawyers looked at all this data, and this is why you need to get a personal injury lawyer and blah, blah, blah. So I don't necessarily think somebody is working as a data surveyor at airportparkingreservations.com. Anyway, and they probably sent this release out to reporters in other cities like Nashville and Tampa and Seattle across the country. But these are all probably the same, that's what I'm saying, across the board, across the country, not just here in Colorado, even though that's what it says. So this is what it says about the most common arguments are in Colorado airports. And of course, I have to do this like a top 10 list, like the old top 10 list, because this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, there's 10 here. So I'm going to do this like a top 10 list for the David Letterman top 10 list. So we'll start with number 10 for the most likely issue to cause an argument at the airport. Getting drunk, 14%. I would think that would be higher, getting drunk. And airports and golf courses are, I think, the only two places that it's socially acceptable to start drinking at 7:30 in the morning. Where else? Maybe on vacation in Cabo or something, or on a cruise ship. Not even on a cruise ship do I think you see people drinking that early in the morning. But airports and golf courses, yep, fire it up there that early. All right, number 9, hangover, 16%. Seat issues, 16%. I maybe that's a seat issue on the airplane, and you're getting into an argument with the flight personnel with that one. Number, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4. This is number 10, 9, 8, 7. All right, number 7. Lost boarding passes at 16%, likely to cause well, yeah, I could see that, cause an argument, because the wife and husband are saying, I thought you had them. No, I thought you had them. Didn't you bring them through security? Well, I did, but I left them in the bin. Well, now we have to go up to the gate agent and get some more. Okay, fine. See, that's all you really have to do, so it doesn't really have to be that big of an argument. Number 6, hunger. Where are we going to eat? It seems like that is always a conversation and can bring an argument. Doesn't matter if you're at the airport or if you're at home, always finding where you're going to eat. All right, so we're in the top 5 now of the most likely issues to cause an argument. Security. Well, going through security can be a challenge, especially if you don't understand that they are serious about their security jobs with the TSA. And if you start screwing around, like, do you have anything in your, any weapons on you? Or, if you start screwing around and joking around with them, they'll usually take you and give you that wand or worse. And you don't want to be put on a no-fly list because that really will crimp your style, and then you will have a bigger argument for that. All right, number 4, lost or delayed baggage. Of course, that's one of the most stressful parts, right? If you can't find your stuff. That's why I always put one of those AirTags. I didn't get the official Apple AirTag. I found some on Temu. My daughters are going to freak out when I tell them that. But no, they know. But they'd still like that. Dad, why are you doing on the Temu? You can find these other GPS locators or the Bluetooth, Apple AirTags, where you can put them in your luggage, and it is so great to at least know an area of where the baggage was at last check. So I always recommend putting one in. I put one in each luggage. I put one on my backpack. I put one on all these different pieces of luggage that we have just to keep track of them because they're really a great piece of technology. Number 3 for the most likely issue to cause an argument at the airport, delays and cancellations. Of course, because what are you going to do next? Are you going to stay overnight in the airport? Are you going to get a hotel? Are you going to get a rental car and then drive to a hotel? What are you going to do? Just 24%. I'm surprised it's not higher than that. Number 2, late to the airport. Yep, I could see that causing that would be an argument because then that puts on stress. And anything that you're doing that makes a situation stressful, like security, lost, delayed baggage, delays and cancellations, getting to the airport late. Those are going to start arguments. And interestingly enough, the number 1 issue that might cause you to have an argument with somebody at the airport, lack of sleep. Yay! I'm surprised that is up that high, that it's not down like around 7 or 8. Because lack of sleep, maybe they're just saying, why did you book this 5 a.m. or 6 a.m. flight? Actually, those, especially in the summer, especially in the southeast, where you have severe storms that can crop up, all summer long, it is best to fly early in the morning. Calm air, usually pretty quiet in the airports, and that's the best time to fly. Not in the evening or late evening, after 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock. So really, between 9 a.m. and 7 a.m. is the best time to go flying. Because it's usually the best weather, except in the spring in the Midwest or in the, Oklahoma, Kansas, northern Texas areas where you can get those severe weather. But usually, lack of sleep can cause arguments because you have to catch that early or super late overnight flight. Because I'm looking at going on an overnight flight this spring to Florida, and we'll see what happens. But I've taken those overnight flights and actually liked it. So my wife and I, this was years ago before we had kids, we were at a benefit. I was at this benefit event, black tie affair, and so I have the black tie tux, on the whole thing. We brought our luggage and a change of clothes to the event. So it was maybe, I don't know, 9:30, 10 o'clock. We go change clothes, get in the cab, boom, all the way to the airport, and then fly an overnight flight over to Miami. And we wake up from the plane, and we're in Miami. And it was so cool to do that, to go to an event, a black tie event one night, and then be in Miami that morning. That was pretty fun. Anyway, that was the list of the most likely issues to cause an argument at the airport. Now, a spokesperson from airportparkingreservations.com said, as an airport parking provider, we understand the frustrations that travelers face when arriving at the airport, particularly during the hectic holiday season. Delays, cancellations, and parking issues can add to the stress. Airport Parking Reservations is an airport parking distributor offering parking deals for travelers with 409 parking partners at 88 airports worldwide. There you go. If you are traveling this holiday season, I hope it's safe. I was going to try to get to South Carolina to see my brother in Hilton Head, but it just wasn't going to work out. It was going to be $3,000 for me to fly my family. We would have had to leave on Thanksgiving Day, fly that night, almost an overnight flight, and get to Atlanta on Friday. So we would miss Thursday dinner and really all that stuff altogether. Drive from Atlanta to Hilton Head, which is about a 4-hour drive. Be there on Friday most of the day, and then Saturday most of the day, and then have to leave Saturday in midday to drive back to Atlanta to catch a late night / overnight flight from Atlanta back to Denver and get back to Denver very early on Sunday morning. Because my kids have to go to school, my wife is teaching at a school, so we would have had to be back on Sunday. We couldn't have stayed to Monday or whatever and stretched it out. So and so to be in to do that traveling for $3,000 for about 36 hours, that would have been. We just didn't see that as being, because FaceTime works too. Anyway, if you're traveling, I hope it's safe and relatively stress-free, because traveling is never, ever perfect. Thanks for being here. Thanks for listening. I am thankful every week that people are listening to this fine little show. I'm Jason Luber, the traffic guy, and until next time, be safe, and as always, happy motoring.